In the quiet town of Aglyria, Earl Kazuma paced nervously, glancing at the sky. Isn't Bina a bit too late? I hope nothing strange happens. What do you mean? His aide Sebens asked. Even though the lighter and popcorn were irregular, I don't think a noble would take much interest in them. Perhaps it makes more sense if it's commoners, Kazuma replied. They have limited resources and might want to assess her skills in technology. A worried vendor approached them. Earl Kazuma, Lady Bina isn't at the usual stall. She's gone to Earl Garana's place. Kazuma felt a knot tighten in his stomach. Can I just have a business talk with you? It's quite cramped in here, the vendor replied, eyeing the limited space. Please don't say that in front of Bina, Kazuma said, frustrated. Sebens held up a chilled Appel. I've brought some snacks. Oh, Appel. Let me do a poison test, Kazuma joked. I'm sorry. Sebens is a bit paranoid, the vendor laughed. Sebens continued testing the apple. Hey, Sebens. Kazuma called. Pardon me, this Appel is chilled and has a great flavor, Sebens admitted. Is it that delicious? Kazuma asked, surprised. I've never had anything like that. This is magnificent, Sebens declared. And this? The vendor pointed to the chilling device. It's a magic tool called a refrigerator, the vendor explained. Lady Bina made this. With this we can preserve food in fresh condition, Kazuma exclaimed, excitement rising. If we could preserve food, it might solve malnutrition, but because of the price of the resources, it can't be sold at the market, the vendor finished. We're planning on reconstructing it while cutting down the price, the vendor added. So the masses can buy it? Kazuma asked. Yes. There should be a way to make everyone happy, the vendor affirmed. Instead of hogging happiness, it's better to share it with everyone, Kazuma said. Okay. Please let me buy your products, the vendor said. Earl-sama, what about the water boiler? Sebens interjected. Of course we're buying it too, Kazuma confirmed. Just then, a shadow fell over their conversation. But I came here to offer you guys to be my exclusive magi craftsmen. Is that so? The vendor asked, surprised. What changed your mind? I can't ask you to make a tool for conflict, Kazuma admitted. Someone has been sending golems and magical beasts against our kingdom. A golem, the vendor asked, eyes widening. What's their objective in coming here? After our research, the golems come from the Celoria region. We can't say for sure, but it's probably an invasion, Kazuma explained. That's why all the nobles are racing to get excellent magi craftsmen, the vendor realized. Yes, it's to increase their power against the golems and Celorian army, Kazuma said. If it's only to fight the invader, then it's okay, but magi craftsmen have been used in nobles' power struggles. So that's why you and Earl Garana approached us? The vendor asked. I won't deny it. It's our job to protect the kingdom by preparing manpower, Kazuma reiterated. Wait a second. That means Earl Garana took Bina to, the vendor began. Yes. It's probably the same as my objective, Kazuma confirmed. Reiko, can you locate Bina? He asked urgently. Yes, she replied eagerly. Stop. You need a proper procedure to get inside the citadel, the vendor cautioned. I'll go instead. Let a noble handle the problem caused by a noble. I'll bring Bina home quickly, the vendor insisted. Can I really count on you? Kazuma asked. Just leave it to me, the vendor assured. As they were about to depart, chaos erupted outside. What's going on? Kazuma shouted. Father! A golem is coming this way. A golem? Kazuma exclaimed, adrenaline surging through him. Yes. What's their objective in coming here? Meanwhile, in Earl Garana's mansion, Bina enjoyed a moment of respite. Did you have a good time? She asked, smiling at her host. Yes, the temperature was really great, Bina replied. Thank you for your help with the popcorn. You've done great. Garana praised. I'd like to buy the popcorn machine for 10,000 tor. Bina continued. 10,000 tor? That's a month's worth of profits, Garana exclaimed. Bina sensed something was amiss. What are you doing? Please wait. I have to go back already, the vendor protested. Shut up. Do you want something to happen to that sister and brother of yours? Garana threatened. What are you? The vendor stammered. I dislike noisy women, so can you just shut your mouth? Garana said, leaning closer. I'll be sure to adore you. The night is still young. Let's have plenty of fun. As the night unfolded, the stakes grew higher. The bonds of friendship and loyalty would soon be tested, as they faced the threat of golems and power-hungry nobles determined to control their destiny. In a dimly lit corridor of the citadel, a girl named Bina was cornered by a figure whose intentions were unclear. "No, get away from me," she stammered, her heart racing as the shadowy figure loomed closer. "Fufu. Be mine," he whispered, a twisted smile on his face. "And you'll have a great life." Suddenly, a voice pierced through the tension. "Earl Kuranasama." A man rushed in, breathless. "See Claude?" Bina gasped, recognizing the familiar face. "Can't you at least knock?" "I'm sorry." But Claude hesitated, his gaze shifting to the looming figure. "Earl Kazuma is saying to bring Bina-san out. I'm sorry for intruding this late at night, but I heard Lady Bina had been called here." The air thickened with unease. "This guy," Bina thought, feeling the chill of danger as Claude continued. "I went to the stall, but there was no one there." Claude's expression grew serious. "If it's Bina, then I already heard from the guards that she hasn't left the citadel. She'll come out soon. She's been enjoying our magnificent bath." "Is that so? Then I'll call her right away," Claude said, his voice steady despite the tension. "Lady Bina," he called out. "Let's go home. Your siblings are waiting." "Yes," Bina replied, relief washing over her. But as they turned to leave, the shadowy figure's voice echoed menacingly. "Damn it. That old noble family's kid. Just because he joined politics, how dare he act so cocky in front of me? Well, Bina will be mine soon. As long as I have her siblings in my hands, then there'll be no problems. She's mine." Claude turned to Bina, concern etched on his face. "It's going well, isn't it? All according to plan. It's too late for them. It will all be done by the time they arrive." "Father," Bina whispered, sensing an impending danger. "Are they after the magical tools?" "Most probably," Claude replied, his voice low. "So if possible, I want to avoid conflict. We don't know for sure if they are enemies or not." "Well, I guess it's impossible though." "In the worst case, please escape by yourself, Father," Bina urged. "If there's an enemy you can't win against, then running would also be meaningless. If we have to fight, then I'll just believe in you." "Yes," he replied, determination shining in his eyes. Suddenly, a voice broke through the darkness. "Found you. Now how about coming over here?" Bina's heart sank. "So that's how it is. You didn't come to steal, but to kidnap instead. Unforgivable," Claude shouted, stepping protectively in front of Bina. Just then a loud crash shook the walls. "What was that noise?" Bina gasped, looking around in alarm. "It's a good opportunity, so let's just rebuild the house," Claude said, his eyes narrowing. "Who's there? It's dangerous over there, you know," Bina called out, her heart pounding. In the chaos, a giant golem appeared, towering above them. "Go, golem," it roared, sending shockwaves through the air. Bina's eyes widened in fear. "The golem is..." "No way. Even if I have to burn this area with her," Claude shouted, summoning flames around him. "Oh great flame. Burn everything to ash. Flame storm." "What's that?" Bina cried out as the flames swirled around them. "Damn, we're too late?" Claude's voice was filled with urgency. "Reiko Wanichan. Burn to nothingness," Bina yelled, clutching her heart. As the flames raged, Bina fought to keep her composure. "New. My home. Damn you, monster," Claude shouted, determination fueling his actions. "I'm just an automata," the golem responded, its eyes glowing ominously. "I'll just take a hostage," Claude threatened, his patience wearing thin. "You've sure destroyed many things. I'll have you pay for it," the golem retorted. Suddenly, Bina heard a familiar voice. "Bina, are you all right?" "Jean." "I'm okay. Thanks to Earl Kazuma. I'm really sorry. I was forced to sell the popcorn machine to them. Even Reiko destroyed your wall." "You don't have to feel bad about something like that," Jean reassured her. "It's because your wall was so thin and fragile. You should build a better house," Claude chimed in, trying to lighten the mood despite the chaos. "I know. Let's also make it anti-fire," Bina suggested, her spirit rekindled. "From where do you think I can get a material that expensive?" Claude laughed, despite the situation. Really, you guys? You're talking about crafting even in this situation? Jean exclaimed, shaking his head in disbelief. Well, we are magi craftsmen after all. Making something is our forte, Bina said, her eyes sparkling with determination. Welcome back, Claude called out, relief flooding over him as they regrouped. As the dust settled, the group faced a new dawn together, ready to rebuild and fight for their home. The village had been through a calamity, leaving many structures damaged and spirits low. Earl Kazuma stood amid the rubble, shaking his head in dismay. This sure is awful. Even so, it's a miracle that the workshop is okay, he said, glancing around. Rebuilding the house is one thing, replied Bina, trying to stay positive. But what should we do for today? We can't let the disaster ruin our spirits. How about coming to my place? Kazuma suggested, a glimmer of hope in his eyes. There's still a chance they haven't given up after all. You can make a new workshop in my territory. There are guards there, so it will be much safer. At least let me protect you until the uproar has calmed down. Bina smiled at his concern but frowned as a new problem arose. The problem is, how will Earl Garana play dumb about this? Play dumb? I believe he will say this incident was caused by the invasion of Solums and magical beasts, Kazuma replied. Bina sighed, knowing Garana well. Well, a noble trying to abduct their citizens is not something that can be overlooked. He went as far as sending a golem. If the abduction were to succeed, it's hard to say this, but I believe he would use those two to force Lady Bina to do his bidding. That's awful, Kazuma exclaimed. Moreover, since he's a noble, that's just how dire the situation is. Even people like him are still needed for this country. And even though it's most probably his doing, we don't have any evidence yet. How about making those people spill the truth? Bina suggested, determined to find a way to expose Garana's machinations. Sebans is trying that now, but it seems like they have their own reasons. They won't talk at all. There are some that even try to commit suicide, Kazuma said, the gravity of the situation weighing heavily on him. Are you telling Bina to just bear it? Bina's voice rose in frustration. At least for now. For now, Kazuma interjected. I can't wait. I'll go to Earl Garana's place right away. Reiko. Stop it. Kazuma called after her. I believe it would be easy for Lady Reiko to destroy Earl Garana and his subordinates, but if the trust of nobles in this kingdom is destroyed, please think about what impact it will have on the Isleria Kinsum, on Blue Land. Moreover, think about how it will affect the citizens and Lady Bina. That's why I can't let you go, he pleaded, knowing the stakes were high. Returning hatred using that power is easy, but please can't you give me time? Kazuma's voice softened. I believe he will taste his own medicine in the future. Bina smiled gently. If it's about me, I'm okay. I have everyone's help after all. And after all, I still love this city and this kingdom. We have to think about who we want to create something for. Wasn't it Jean who said it? I'll make something for the people of this city, Bina declared, determination shining in her eyes. After all, I still need to make much more money. Next, how about a machine to dry laundry instantly? Or a tool to keep water clean? Kazuma laughed, impressed. You sure are amazing, Bina. Well, of course. Who do you think I am? The best magic craftsman in Blue Land. Ah, I see. You're already over it, huh? Kazuma chuckled. Of course. I'm Earl Kazuma, he replied, a hint of mischief in his voice. I'm really sorry for being upset. Please take care of Bina. Yeah, count on me. Then what about Jindano too? I think I'll pass, Bina interrupted. You can also make your workshop in the annex, Kazuma suggested. No, Since you're Lady Bina's assistant, I think it's best for you to come too. Reiko grinned, suddenly appearing. Wait, what's this? Hey, Kazuma exclaimed, slightly flustered. This is kind of embarrassing. Come on, it's faster this way, Reiko laughed, pulling him along. As they moved back, Kazuma noticed the camaraderie among them, a warmth blossoming in his heart. Lady Bina, how's your new workshop? He asked, eager to hear more. It's great. I'm glad to hear that. Please say if you need anything. Then a circuit hammer made from pure magic gold crystal. And also some jewelry, she joked. Okay, I'll prepare it, Kazuma said with a laugh, but Bina quickly added, it's just a joke. I'm sorry. Earl Kazuma chuckled again. To think in my whole life that you treat a measly magic craftsman as good as this. I've only met two of them as good as this, Bina replied, blushing. Well, I knew you when you were already famous, so I think I'm different from him, Kazuma replied, their bond growing stronger. But since I was little, my father told me to become strong while my mother told me to become kind. That's why even if I'm strong, I always want to keep being kind. Your family is... Bina began, sensing a shift in mood. My father died, and my mother passed away when I was still little, Kazuma replied quietly. I'm sorry to hear that, Bina said softly, reaching out to him. It's okay. Right now I have you guys as my family after all, so I'm not lonely at all. All right then. I'll make today's dinner, Bina exclaimed, enthusiasm returning. If it's food, then the chefs will. But since you're calling us family, then I'd like you to try some. It's true their cooking is really good. Bina's special Kazuno leaf soup. It doesn't have any nutrition, but it tastes quite good. And don't you need to try what commoner food tastes like? Kazuma teased. Just because of a girl. Garana seethed, thinking about the challenges ahead. To think I would lose my private soldiers in Golem, and that damned Kazuma. Even though he knows the truth, why didn't he publicize it? Suddenly, Garana's thoughts were interrupted as he heard whispers among the townsfolk. Speaking of that magic craftsman, come over here and take a look. The shop of magic craftsman Bina is open. Bina's joy radiated through the crowd. So you've come back, she greeted warmly. Garana's heart sank, knowing the trouble he was in. As the people around her began to gather, hope shining in their eyes. It seems like I know what he's doing, Bina said, glancing toward the horizon. He can only do one thing after all. He's probably making something somewhere. Done, Bina shouted, excitement in her voice. It's finished. What is? Kazuma asked, confused but intrigued. I've been making your personal golems in secret, Bina announced, her eyes sparkling. I would like to link them to you before activating them. As the day unfolded, Kazuma and Bina felt a renewed sense of purpose, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, bound by their friendship and the love for their city. Once upon a time, in a world where magic intertwined with everyday life, two friends explored the marvels of their new home. A house adorned with traditional Japanese rooms. Look at the tatami, one exclaimed, admiring the meticulous design. Is it to your liking? Yeah, it's really surprising that you were able to make a tatami, the other replied, eyes wide with wonder. Actually, I didn't make it. I recreated it with magic, the first friend said with a smile. It's close to the real thing, but not quite. Magic is really convenient, the other mused. But it takes a lot of knowledge to use it well. True, the first friend nodded. I skipped a lot of the necessary knowledge. I realized that after watching Bina. The skills I learned from Master. The other friend sighed, reflecting on the disparity between their current era and that of their master. I don't dislike it, but the gap in skill feels immense. Let's change our perspective, the first friend encouraged. Maybe we can come up with something new together. Determined, they brainstormed ideas for an engine that could revolutionize transportation beyond the magical warp gates. What if we had something like cars or planes, one suggested. But we don't have gasoline or batteries here. We'd have to use magic as fuel, the other replied thoughtfully. Exactly. Let's see what we can do with wind magic. The first friend exclaimed, excitement sparking in their eyes. As they began to experiment, they soon discovered that every magic spell had an unexpected recoil effect. If it has recoil, maybe we can use that to our advantage, the first friend reasoned. After much trial and error, they finally crafted a small pipe, which they proudly named the Magi Jet Engine. They decided to test it immediately, anticipation buzzing in the air. Be careful. A strong wind is about to come, the first friend cautioned as they initiated the test. The recoil was strong, and a powerful wind surged forth. Are you okay? The first friend shouted, but suddenly, a loud crash echoed as the engine broke apart. I'm sorry. I ruined it, the other friend exclaimed, guilt washing over them. It's okay. I can just make it again, the first friend reassured. Don't feel bad. We were too focused on the result instead of the process. After a refreshing break and a bath to clear their minds, they returned to their work. We want to help too, the younger companions chimed in, eager to support their older sibling. Just like father wanted us to, the first friend replied, realizing they were all in this together. As the sun set, casting golden light through the windows, the first friend decided to give the younger companions names inspired by the sun and moon, Soleil for the golden sun and Luna for the silver moon. Later, they set up a proper testing room in the spacious research area. With renewed determination, they made adjustments to their engine, working tirelessly until it finally roared to life. It's a success, they cheered, but the first friend reminded them, We can't use it for transportation just yet. The power is still too weak for a plane. We can make a water propulsion machine instead. They concluded, excitement building again. Their journey was far from over, but as they prepared to travel to the sea for further experiments, they felt a sense of camaraderie. They were determined to create something incredible together, with magic and friendship guiding their way. The scent of the sea hung in the air as they stepped onto the shores of Pot Rock. It was different from Horai Island, and it filled him with a strange sense of nostalgia. The town's called Pot Rock, right? She asked, glancing at the horizon. If we follow the coastline, we'll find a town not far from here. Yes, he replied, pulling his cloak tighter. Also, in front of other people, treat me as your brother. She nodded silently, and they began searching for an inn as they strolled along the coast. When they found a room, it was modest but affordable. 300 tor a night for the two of them. The inn had the simple charm of a tropical island. This place belongs to the Ilias Kingdom, he mused. South of the Aglyria Kingdom, where blue land is, the heat bore down on them, reminding them how far they'd traveled. As they settled in, he couldn't help but notice the medieval nature of the town. The civilization here seems to be stuck in the past compared to Mother's era. She nodded. In Master's era, teleportation gates were used daily, so this seems primitive in comparison. But still, I'm curious about the ships of this time. Her curiosity piqued his own, and after putting away their luggage, they went to examine the ships. They marveled at the small wooden vessels strengthened with metal, noticing golems replacing engines, their hands acting as oars. It's primitive but effective, he said, admiring the ingenuity. Golems don't tire, but their legs seem weak. The balance could be better. As they continued to observe, a voice interrupted their thoughts. A woman approached, intrigued by their discussion. Are you a shipwright? She asked. I'm Marcia, a shipwright from a neighboring town. I'm Jean, he introduced himself. This is Reiko. After a brief conversation, Marcia made her request. She needed Jin's help to build a golem-powered ship for a race happening in 5 days. The stakes were high. Her family's pride and their shipwright shop were on the line. Jean hesitated but eventually agreed, recognizing the determination in her voice. With the race looming, they hurried to register. Along the way, they encountered Valentino, an arrogant noble with a proposal for Marcia. She quickly brushed him off, eager to focus on the task at hand. Jean took a test to prove his skills, crafting a precise copper figurine in record time, earning his place in the competition. As they sat down to plan their strategy, Marcia's eyes gleamed with hope. The race was just days away, and they would need every bit of skill and luck to succeed. In a quiet workshop, 2 engineers, Jean and Reinhardt, were deep in conversation, brainstorming solutions for the upcoming golem boat competition. Reinhardt started, all right, what should we do about the golem? And don't forget the boat too. Jean, always the more precise one, replied, we already have a boat, don't we? Reinhardt shook his head. It's not good enough. If we want to be the fastest, we need to consider the balance between the golem and the boat. Their compatibility has to be perfect, or it'll ruin our chances. Time was ticking. We only have 4 days left to finish the base design, Reinhardt reminded Jean, urgency in his voice. After that, we'll have a test run and make any modifications. Jean nodded thoughtfully. If we have to remake the boat, Reinhardt cut in. We'll use your boat as the base. We don't have time for a complete overhaul. Do you have a plan? Jean asked, always seeking structure. Yep, though it's still vague, Reinhardt admitted. First, I need you to gather the materials for the golem. Leave it to me, Jean answered confidently. I'll check out the course as well. He recalled the prelims would involve a course to a distant rock and back to the shore. We'll need speed for the prelims, but the boat also has to handle the U-turns well. Reinhardt mused. The main issue is reducing the time lost on turns. That could be the deciding factor in the race. Jean considered options, maybe a propeller, but making one would take detailed adjustments. What about using the Magi jet engine? It'd be hard to control, Reinhardt warned. Then we're left with rowing, Jean sighed before adding, but I want to fully use the advantages of the catamaran design. Suddenly Lorelei, one of their assistants, reported, durability test with the sudden rise has ended. Proceeding to the turning test. Just then, Jean noticed something surprising and exclaimed, "Wait, is she an automaton?" Reinhardt smiled. "Yes, she is. I'm glad you noticed." He introduced himself. "I'm Reinhardt, a magi craftsman from Schaller country. And this is Reiko, my companion." Jean, intrigued by Reinhardt's work, complimented, "It's amazing how well-balanced your golem is, especially considering its magical beast skin." Reinhardt nodded, explaining how rare and difficult those materials were to work with. They shared stories of crafting complex golems, discussing how animal movements, like those of horses and fish, required intricate adjustments. As they wrapped up their conversation, Jean said, "It was fun talking with you, Reinhardt." "Likewise, Jean." Their conversation was interrupted by Marcia, one of their teammates. "Jean, we have a problem. There are no materials left in the shop." Jean looked concerned. "What? Someone bought everything right after we registered." Marcia nodded, frustrated. "I could only find bronze." Reinhardt reassured them, "It's all right. We can manage with bronze." Jean brightened. "Really? That's great. Let's start making the golem and the boat immediately." With that, they set to work. Reiko, Jin's capable automaton sister, molded the outer layer of the golem based on Marcia's appearance. The team worked swiftly, with Reiko even transferring Marcia's knowledge into the golem to help with boat construction. After some time, the humanoid golem was ready. Reinhardt asked Jean, "How about naming her?" Marcia quickly proposed, "Let's call her Aro," as in going straight to the finish line. Jean activated the golem with the name Aro, and after some adjustments, the new creation was ready to assist. "Now Aro will help us build the boat too," Jean explained proudly. As the final touches were made, Jean revealed the ingenious design behind their humanoid golem-powered boat. "She uses pedals to rotate the water wheel, which powers the boat forward," he said. Reinhardt watched in awe as Reiko demonstrated the new system. Jean smiled, confident in their creation. "It's going to work," he said. With the clock ticking down to the competition, the team stood ready, hopeful that their hard work and innovation would carry them to victory. As the crew gathered back on deck, a conversation began. "Oh, they've come back. How was it?" one asked eagerly. "It's great," the other replied. "It's fast and stable. Moreover, it's easy to control. Cygnus is a really great ship, but it's so stable that it's hard to make small adjustments." "I'll try to make some adjustments," came the response, "but I won't remake the entire system. It's originally a boat suited for sailing straight." "Got it. But are you sure Aro's specs aren't bad? Also, I want to confirm something. I believe she's fully functional with the available materials." "Well, the thing is, isn't it strange that she can't go faster than Reiko, who's just a kid?" "Ah, so that's what you're wondering. Huh, an automata? I thought you'd be more surprised." "Well, I don't know what to be surprised about. What's so amazing about it?" "He's my father." Well, I guess that's the case. So take a good rest today. We'll start adjustments tomorrow." "Yeah, all right." Suddenly, footsteps echoed from the direction of Marcia-san's room. "There's two. Do you know that's a ladies' room? Did you mistake your room?" Silence fell, but a voice muttered, "I guess that's not the case." "Silence her right away." A defiant reply followed. "I guess you're the ones who should keep it down." "Huh. Father is resting right now. So, what should I do with them?" All right." In the next moment, chaos erupted. "We tried to assault a woman in her sleep, but why did they? Wait, is that a fire?" The realization hit them and panic set in. "That direction, could it be?" "I'm sorry. I thought it would be bad to intrude on your rest." "You don't have to worry about the fire," someone reassured them calmly. "You should." "What are you talking about? A fire at the dock is a big problem. Cygnus will be burnt." "No, it should be safe," came the cool response. "And why do you say that?" "Because she'd evacuate if the boat's in danger." Sighing in frustration, they replied, "You should have said that earlier." But it's still too early to feel relieved. Suddenly, someone shouted, "Reinhardt! What's happening?" "It seems like the fire will spread throughout the docks if this goes on. We've gathered people to help with the fire extinguishing, but things have turned badly." "What do you mean by that?" "A death sea serpent has appeared." "What's that?" "It's a monster that usually only appears offshore. Lorelai is holding its attention for now, but it won't last long. She's not made for fighting. I'll take it to the nearby wharf and defeat it using my magic. Got it, shouted Reiko, rallying the others. Arrow, help Lorelai. Use Cygnus as your foothold. All right. Marcia agreed, go beat it. The battle raged on. Lorelai, the ship is coming. Rise to the surface, shouted Reiko. Arrow, take the wheel. Encircle it while carefully observing the water's surface. Yes, came the determined reply. Now, Reiko commanded. Flame lance. The battle ended with a sense of relief. Did we defeat it? Yes, Creator-sama, confirmed the crew. The Death Sea Serpent has stopped moving. A cheer erupted. We've defeated it. Reiko, Arrow, thanks for the great job. Thank you, Reiko replied. But it seems some boats were damaged. I got it. Arrow and I will go save them. I'll tell Lorelai to help too. Meanwhile, someone else added. Then I and Jean will help repair the golems and boats. Are you okay with that? Of course. Reiko, go extinguish the remaining fires. Got it, she replied. As the chaos settled, a crew member sighed, Geesh. We can't even have a good sleep. Hey, someone added. Go wake every shipwright and magic craftsman in Potrock. I got it, came the tired reply. After a long night, they all collapsed, exhausted. It's done. I can't take it anymore. That was one hellish night. But it wasn't a bad experience, someone noted, looking at the horizon. The sunrise is beautiful, and the boats and docks are as good as new. Yeah, agreed Reiko, you're here. Hey Elsa. Rai greeted her. I'm admiring the sunrise with my friends. Want to join? Elsa replied softly, it's so beautiful. But everyone's worried. Let's go back. Yeah. See you later, Jean, Reiko waved. As they returned, Reiko sighed. Well, let's go back and sleep. But there's still a lot to do. Someone hesitated. It's okay. We'll rest first. You've got a swimsuit to try on later, right? Yeah. You're right, Reiko nodded, finally allowing herself a smile. Back at the docks, other voices muttered angrily, damn it. They can't even start a proper fire. And we nearly destroyed others' boats too. Wouldn't it be better if there were fewer participants? But what if the competition gets cancelled? Litsa, their leader, grumbled, I want everything I can get. We sent thugs, but somehow they were buried in the sand. And then the Death Sea Serpent appeared. Strange, but whatever. I'll destroy them in the competition, no matter what I have to do. As the sun rose, preparations for the next battle had already begun. The long-awaited race was about to start, and the excitement in the air was unmistakable. At long last, the race is starting, someone exclaimed as the arena buzzed with energy. So this is the stage, a competitor murmured, glancing around. There are so many people here, even though it's just the preliminaries. Yeah, and there are so many stalls too, another added, noticing the festive atmosphere. This place must make a ton of money with all these events. 5,000 tor on number 1. A voice shouted from the crowd. Also, number 7 and number 12. Gambling. One competitor whispered, I guess everyone's favorite is number 1, Earl Valentino. Another figure stepped forward. Reinhardt. And this is my little sister, Elsa, he introduced her somewhat nervously. Things were hectic the other day, so I couldn't introduce her properly. Elsa looked shyly at the group and said, Is there something, Venizi, for saving rain? Thank you. Jean smiled warmly and introduced himself. I am Jean Nito and these are Marcia and Reiko. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you too, Elsa replied softly. Anyway, Jean turned to Marcia, those clothes. You're going to participate in the race too? Marcia nodded confidently, yes, I will. The color of our swimsuit is different, but I guess we'll meet at the finals. Don't lose. Marcia's eyes gleamed with determination. Me and Lorelai were the strongest. One of the spectators overheard and laughed. Look at you talking big. That's rich coming from a lady who grew up on land. Marcia grinned back, unfazed, ha. Led by none other than me, Valentino. I just hope you don't get disqualified right away in the preliminaries. The banter continued as the race announcer's voice echoed across the arena. All right. The 10th Golem boat race is about to start. As the boats lined up, Marcia exchanged a quick glance with Jean. A match is a match. I won't lose, she said firmly. Jean smiled. I won't lose either. The countdown began. 5, 4, 3, 2, 0. All participants shot forward. But number 14 made an impressive start. The crowd cheered wildly as water splashed from the powerful strokes of the golem's arms. Marcia observed, speed is crucial, but if they try to turn at that pace, they'll be off balance. True to her prediction, at the turning point, participant number 28 overtook number 14, taking advantage of the inside course. Marcia's moment had come. With a burst of speed, she surged ahead, her golem Lorelei responding perfectly to her commands. The wind whipped through her hair as she thought, I really like this feeling. Leaving everything behind with speed. In the final stretch, Marcia overtook everyone and crossed the finish line in first place. As I declared, I overtook them after the turning point, she shouted triumphantly. Team MJR is moving on to the finals, the announcer declared, as the crowd erupted in applause. But in the background, one of the defeated competitors whispered darkly, I won't let that happen in the finals no matter what I have to do. The preliminaries had come to a dramatic close, and the announcer's voice boomed across the arena. 7th race winner is participant number 1, Team Glory of Elias, Litsa. With the conclusion of the preliminaries, the finalists were now set for tomorrow's grand finale. The crowd was buzzing with excitement, and the large magic screen displayed the names of those who would compete for ultimate victory. Ladies and gentlemen, who will claim the crown tomorrow? Look forward to the finals. Among the participants, determination was fierce. Litsa clenched her fist and whispered, I won't lose. Everyone, let's fight fair and square. Her teammates cheered, of course. Let's do this. Despite the excitement, Litsa's mind wandered back to a conversation with her teammate, Marcia. After her victory, Marcia had seemed uneasy, apologizing softly. I'm sorry. If I hadn't pushed myself, I might have run away when things got tough. I said those words to hold myself in place. Somehow I feel like even as weak as I am, I can fight properly now. Reiko, ever practical, reassured her. You don't have to worry, Marcia. We'll win tomorrow for sure. Aro, our golem, was crafted by my father, and Cygnus, our boat, was modified by him as well. But in the end, it's you who will lead us to victory. You controlled both the best golem and the best boat in today's preliminaries. Marcia, blushing slightly, laughed. Reiko, you're really bad at giving compliments. But thanks. I'll live up to your expectations and win this, for everyone and myself. Later that evening, a celebratory dinner took place. Team Blue Marine and MJR gathered with Reinhardt and his friends to toast their success. The mood was light until Reinhardt brought up a troubling matter. About the fire the other day. It started near your dock, Marcia. Marcia froze. The fire? But we didn't leave anything combustible there. Reinhardt continued, it seems like someone may have started it intentionally. And whoever did it might have been targeting you. Shocked, Marcia stammered, me? But why? Reinhardt shrugged, I don't know. But I thought you might have some enemies in mind. Marcia's face darkened, and she listed several possible causes, ranging from her father's debts to shady business dealings. But nothing seemed to fit. It doesn't make sense, she murmured. Reinhardt's voice grew firm. No matter their reasons, stay alert. The finals course will be announced right before the race, and I have a bad feeling about it. The next day the finals began. Litsa launched into the race with a powerful dash, but something was wrong. The other participants were moving strangely, blocking her at every turn. Litsa gritted her teeth. Are they throwing the match? No, they're just blocking us. Her partner Reiko observed closely. It looks like they're working together to stop you from advancing. Frustrated, Litsa shouted, are you all okay with this? Didn't we agree to fight fair and square? But no one responded. It was clear they had their own agendas. Litsa wasn't about to give up. She pulled back on the controls, guiding Aro and Cygnus into a calculated maneuver. The crowd gasped as she feigned a retreat, then suddenly accelerated through an opening, leaving her opponents behind. Aro's instantaneous power. This is the best plan I can think of, Litsa thought, pushing herself and her team to the limit. Just as they began to pull ahead, a warning rang out. Reiko looked at the magic screen in horror. Father, there are multiple magic reactions coming from the sea. A sea serpent swarm. And they're heading straight for Marcia. Reiko stood on the dock, her heart racing as the sea churned violently in front of her. A swarm of sea serpents, she asked, her voice tight with urgency. Yes, came the response, about 30 or so. Heading straight toward Marcia and the others. Reiko cursed under her breath, her mind racing. Why now of all times? Should we cancel the tournament? No, another voice chimed in. Even if we did, the serpents might still catch up to the participants before they can turn back. Reiko, a familiar voice asked, do you think you can handle them? With a confident nod she replied, yes, no problem. But I'm worried about their positioning. I might not make it in time. Her gaze turned toward the island visible in the distance. The race path curves around Io Island. Maybe if I ride Cygnus I can reach them faster. Without hesitation they rushed to the dock. Reiko's companion glanced at her, concern in his eyes. Are you okay? Did you bring that thing? Yes, I'm going to attach it to a spare boat. But the real challenge will be the boat's stability and strength. We'll have to make it work using Cygnus spare parts, Reiko said as she set to work. Moments later, Reiko climbed aboard. Careful, her companion warned. You're lightweight, so controlling this won't be easy. Can you handle the rudder? I'll manage, she said confidently. I'll control the output. We won't run out of magic power with this setup. With a burst of energy, the boat shot forward, powered by the magic jet engine. The speed was exhilarating but dangerous. The uneven waves sent the boat airborne, making it difficult to control. Reiko, are we heading in the right direction? Her companion shouted over the roar of the waves. Yes. I can sense their magic and Io Island is visible ahead. We'll engage them soon. As they neared the swarm, the sea serpents finally surfaced. Reiko gritted her teeth. It's time. Shoot into the water to provoke them. We need to draw their attention away from Io Island before Marcia and the others arrive. The water exploded as the serpents reacted, thrashing violently. One dived below the surface. Can we follow it underwater? Reiko asked. That won't be a problem, her companion replied. But if they go too deep it might be trouble. Reiko concentrated, pouring more magic into the stones powering their boat. Suddenly one serpent re-emerged. That was just a distraction, she muttered. Now comes my favorite part. Acoustic detection. It worked, and the high-frequency waves pinpointed the serpent's location. As expected of you, her companion praised. But then something went wrong. Reiko felt a sudden jolt as the serpent's sharp teeth latched onto her back. Father! Run away, she yelled, struggling to free herself. Her companion, her father, sprang into action. I'm going to tear this thing apart. With a surge of magic power, Reiko focused on her spell. Luminous beam, she shouted, releasing a burst of energy that severed the serpent's grip. Are you okay? Her father asked, rushing to her side. Yes, Reiko panted, thanks to you. But honestly, I think I could have managed without your help. No, her father smiled, you did great. But is it over? Reiko scanned the area. I'm sensing something new. From Io Island. It's a golem. A golem? During the race, Reiko's brow furrowed. It's underwater. It's not one of the players' golems. Her father's voice grew tense. Suspicious. What's going on? Reiko nodded. I'll go check it out. If it poses a threat, I'll destroy it. Be careful, Reiko, her father warned. As Reiko approached the island, her suspicions grew. Could the appearance of the sea serpents have been planned? If they were after Marcia, what's the real purpose? Then she saw it. The ship the golems were aiming for. After all, their purpose is the destruction of Cygnus. In the midst of a heated race, Marcia's team was pushing themselves to their limits. The roar of the water filled the air as they sped forward, the tension palpable. Yes, Marcia exclaimed, adrenaline rushing through her. Reiko, Onisima just cheered for me. Arrow, her loyal companion, noticed something. What's wrong, Arrow? She asked. Are your feet okay? There's no problem with them, Arrow replied. But it's either the belt or the water wheel. They might not handle the stress for long. Marcia furrowed her brow. He told me that too. We should row with full power only at key points. Agreed. We can't risk damaging the ship, Arrow warned, his tone serious. It's not the hull we need to worry about, it's the water wheel. Even though I applied strengthening magic, the joints might not hold. Marcia nodded. We only had a small amount of rare materials, so we prioritized the hull and arrows parts. We couldn't afford to reinforce the water wheel. Their conversation was cut short as a sudden shift in the race caught Marcia's attention. We're being overtaken by Elsa in the reef area. But after we round Io Island, it's just a straight line. Marcia's rival Elsa was closing the gap. We'll go at maximum speed, Elsa declared, her voice full of pride. I have my pride as a sailor after all. Marcia clenched her fists, determination burning in her eyes. We can't let them win, she yelled. Let's make our move. With all teams now racing neck and neck, it was a battle of pure speed. Marcia's heart pounded as her ship pushed forward. Marcia, don't lose. Arrow encouraged. Suddenly, Elsa's golem, Lorelei, started slowing down. Master Elsa, it's overwork. I can only move at low speeds now. Elsa sighed, realizing they were beaten. I see. Let's move slowly towards the goal. Thank you, Lorelei. Just then Marcia's team surged ahead. 35th team. Marcia just reached the goal. Team MJR is the winner. The announcer's voice echoed. Marcia crossed the finish line victorious, but her face was stern. She turned to face the crowd, her gaze piercing. You, she muttered under her breath. You've been meddling with me this whole time. And even with this tournament. What's she talking about? One of the bystanders whispered. Beats me, another replied, puzzled. Marcia ignored the murmurs, her eyes now fixed on a figure in the crowd. Marquis Valentino de Firenziano stood watching. You should greet them, Marquis. A voice beside him suggested. Your team members will be back soon. The Marquis, expression unchanging, nodded. Yes, I was just thinking of that. But if my subordinate was cheating in this competition, I would need to come investigate. Marcia stepped forward, her voice loud and clear. Reiko, congratulations on the victory. As a reward, have this freshly taken golem core, found in the rocky area of Io Island. Now I wonder who made it and what they were doing there. Valentino's face twitched. You recognize this, don't you, Valentino? Marcia said, her words dripping with accusation. You can't feign ignorance. With a simple respell we'd know everything. The Marquis sneered, his composure breaking. You bastards. Reinhardt and Marcia's companion. This isn't someone else's problem anymore. Marcia raised her chin, her eyes filled with righteous fury. I'll have you confess everything, former Count Valentino. And with that, the truth behind the race's deception began to unravel. In the midst of chaos, a tense confrontation unfolded between the protagonists and their nemesis, Count Valentino. As the heroes raced against time, a sinister plot was revealed. Valentino, the former count, had secretly been manipulating the tournament using golems, and his twisted plan was finally exposed. This is a golem's control core, isn't it? And the commands, obstruct all boats except boat number 11, destroy boat number 351. They were issued by Valentino, one of the heroes exclaimed. The group was stunned, realizing the extent of the count's treachery. Despite his denials and excuses, Valentino's ambitions had driven him to threaten players and even the kingdom itself. Suddenly, golems appeared, the same ones used to build the venue, controlled by Valentino's corrupt influence. As the chaos erupted, the heroes scrambled to protect the people. Let's use our golems to shield everyone, they called out, taking action to safeguard the innocent. Amid the turmoil, Valentino's true intentions became clearer. He had orchestrated the chaos to gain first place in the tournament and, more importantly, to smuggle a rare and powerful gem, Elrodite, using the tournament as his cover. The gem, known to amplify magical power, was worth more than the tournament's first prize and had been the centerpiece of a hidden trading contract linked to the Count. Jean and the others pieced together the clues, discovering that Valentino had hidden the gem within an elaborately decorated knife case on board one of the boats. This is no ordinary knife case. It's a smuggling contract, one of them realized. Valentino, knowing his crimes had been uncovered, tried to flee, but the heroes were hot on his trail. That bastard ran away. We have to find him before he escapes, one shouted. Despite the chaos, the team remained determined, preparing to confront Valentino and bring him to justice. As the heroes rallied their forces, Valentino, hidden in the shadows, cursed his luck and prepared for his next move. You'll all taste my new power, he whispered, plotting his revenge. But for now, the heroes stood victorious, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The sun was setting on the island, casting a warm glow over the horizon as two figures stood by the shore, deep in conversation. "I want to make an airplane," one of them said with sudden enthusiasm. "So it's not a boat?" the other asked, slightly confused. Yeah, it's not a boat," came the reply with a hint of embarrassment. "Well, you should make it then," the other encouraged. Well, there's only a week or so left until we have to meet Reinhardt like we promised," the first person hesitated. "It'll be a difficult task considering how little free time we have." "I see," the second person said, thoughtfully looking at the waves. "But it sure is nice to be back on the island after being away for so long. Plus, we don't have to worry about food for a while thanks to the farm. I also want to make some defensive equipment," the first person added, determined. "We've got a lot to protect here." "I wish I knew where this island actually was," the second mused. "Indeed," the first person agreed. "I've been wanting a weapon." The second turned slightly surprised. Is that so?" "Yes. There's a limit to how much I can adjust my power. And there are situations where magic just can't be used. Besides, during our long trip, I have a feeling we'll find ourselves in unexpected situations. Certainly better safe than sorry, right?" "Exactly. Let's get to work then," the first said with renewed determination. They walked towards the workshop discussing plans. "First, let's make weapons and armor," the first person began. The second person nodded. "I managed to replicate the frame, but people here probably don't know much about guns. As much as I want to use one, it's a bit too lethal." "HM? Does that mean you can't even use it as a threat?" the first person asked curiously. "Things like gunpowder and pressure. It's just too complicated," the second sighed. "What about Venus-Anne's paralyzing staff? And the barrier generator?" "They weren't perfect, but they weren't bad either," the first person mused. "Monsters and bandits are dangerous though, so we need something more." They continued planning, talking about magic rings, stun batons, and protective gear. After hours of work, the first person sighed with satisfaction. "I always get overly excited when I start making things, but it's a lot of fun." "Well, if you're tired, you could put the plane on hold for now." "No. I will make the plane." The first person suddenly perked up. "We'll use a magijet engine for the thrusters and tapered wings. Adamantite and mithril will ensure its integrity. As a safety measure, I've installed an escape mechanism and parachutes." The second person laughed. "Brilliant. I approve." After a few days, the plane was finally complete. They stood back, admiring the massive structure. "Will this thing really fly?" the second asked, skeptical. "We'll find out soon enough," the first said with a grin. "I think it'll be fine with the escape mechanism, but if something happens to you, let me go in your stead," the second insisted. With a nod, they tested the plane. It soared into the sky, revealing the island from a bird's-eye view. "So this is where Horai Island is located," the second remarked. They flew over the landscape, spotting distant kingdoms and landmarks. "We could visit Kana village," the second suggested. "Things should have calmed down there by now." The first person hesitated, then smiled. "Perhaps, but I still have a promise to keep with Reinhardt. And there's so much more I need to learn about this world. I want to be strong enough not to run away again." The second person placed a reassuring hand on their shoulder. "We'll do it together, no matter what happens." And with that, they continued their journey, flying into the unknown, ready for whatever lay ahead. In a small town, the morning sun cast a warm glow over the bustling square. Jin-san, waiting by the fountain, checked his watch, unsure if he had arrived at the right time. Moments later, a familiar face appeared. "Sorry to keep you waiting, Jin-san." Elsa-san greeted him with a bright smile, her presence lifting his spirits. "Good morning, Elsa-san. Now, how about we get inside?" he suggested, gesturing towards the elegant carriage waiting nearby. As they settled in, Elsa-san glanced at Jin-san, her expression softening. "Is everything all right? You seem a bit pale." Jin-san chuckled nervously. "I guess I'm just not used to riding in carriages. Can be a bit dizzying." Reiko, seated beside them, nodded sympathetically. "It's quite common. Let me help ease your nausea." She placed her hand on his shoulder, and a soothing warmth enveloped him. "How do you feel now?" "Much better, thank you," Jin-san replied, relieved. They soon resumed their conversation, discussing the lengthy journey ahead. We'll be crossing 2 countries, Igria and Shalroa, after leaving Elias. It's quite a distance, Elsa-san noted, her brow furrowed in thought. Traveling by carriage is much faster than walking, that's for sure, Jean-san added. But wouldn't it be quicker if we could fly? Reiko suggested, a hint of mischief in her tone. Suddenly the carriage jolted, throwing Jean-san off balance. Whoa! He exclaimed, catching himself just in time. Mean Elsa-san's protective maid shot him a wary glance. Are you okay? I thought you were going to fall. Just lost my balance, Jean-san reassured her, though he noticed the tension in her gaze. She had always been overprotective of Elsa-san. As the conversation drifted toward their mission to apprehend a smuggler named Valentino, Jean-san felt a chill. He understood the stakes. The Elias Kingdom was desperate to capture him, and their safety depended on the journey ahead. The carriage ride continued, filled with laughter and light-hearted banter, but Jean-san couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Min's overprotectiveness weighed heavily on him, creating a sense of unease. When they finally arrived at their destination, the sun began to set, casting an orange hue across the sky. We made it just before dark, Reiko exclaimed, stretching her arms. Yes, but sitting in a carriage for so long is exhausting, Jean-san replied, rubbing his neck. Elsa-san turned to him, her eyes sincere. Thank you for being here with us, Jean-san. Means a lot. The group shared a moment of camaraderie, and Jean-san felt a warm glow in his heart. Perhaps the journey wouldn't be so bad after all, especially with new friends by his side. It was a peaceful day as the carriage smoothly glided along the forest path, carrying a small group of travelers. Suddenly, the carriage came to a halt, interrupting the calm atmosphere. HM? The carriage stopped. One of the passengers, a young woman, remarked with concern. What's going on? Peering out of the window, she saw a group of 10 men surrounding them. Dearest father, she said, turning to the older man seated beside her. It seems like we've been surrounded by a group of people. About 10 of them. The older man, Russell, squinted through the carriage window. Any idea who they are? After a moment of silence, he nodded grimly. Bandits, perhaps? Bandits? The young woman's voice trembled slightly, but she quickly steeled herself. Did you swines ambush this carriage knowing it belongs to the daughter of a viscount of the Shoro Empire? One of the bandits sneered in response. Just hand over your stuff already, old man. Or else. Prepare to meet your maker. Before anyone could react, the bandits rushed the carriage. But just as one raised his blade, a strong figure leaped forward, Udberg, the family's loyal protector. Udberg! Watch out, the young woman cried. Udberg moved swiftly, dispatching the bandit with a single blow. Now then, who's next? He asked calmly, his gaze sweeping over the remaining attackers. The bandits hesitated, clearly shaken. Udberg-san is really strong, the young woman whispered to her father, her voice filled with admiration. I've heard rumors that he's a martial arts master. I guess they're true. The battle continued as Udberg handled the attackers with ease. Reiko, help him, the father ordered. Understood, Reiko replied, stepping out of the carriage with a calm determination. She handed a small ring to the young woman. Elsa, put this on. Elsa took the ring, eyeing it curiously. What is it? It's a guard ring. If you put this on and say barrier, it will protect you. Elsa quickly slipped on the ring and muttered the incantation. A faint shimmer of energy surrounded her, just as another bandit lunged at her with a dagger. But the blade was deflected by the invisible barrier, leaving the bandit stunned. That fast, he gasped. Meanwhile, the remaining bandits had regrouped. Don't run away, you cowards, their leader barked. We still have our trump card. And what would that be? Russell asked coldly, stepping out of the carriage. If you want to see it that badly, then I'll gladly show you, the bandit leader snarled. He raised his arms and began chanting, his life force draining with every word. Summon a golem. A massive golem materialized before them, towering over the carriage. Elsa's eyes widened. A golem? That's the same model as the ones from the attack before. Russell's expression darkened. This means Valentino must be involved. Udberg, there's one more coming from behind. Elsa shouted, turning to her protector. Udberg nodded and swiftly engaged the golem. Don't break the control core, Russell instructed. The bandit leader laughed maniacally. Have you lost your mind? Golem. Kill them. But with one powerful strike, Utberg shattered the golem's armored defenses. The colossal creature collapsed in a heap of debris, leaving the bandits stunned. In one blow, the adamantite armored golems, both destroyed? The bandits scrambled to flee, but one by one they were captured. With the battle over, Elsa exhaled in relief. Is it over? It seems like it, Reiko replied, wiping the sweat from her brow. Elsa sighed, I'm already getting used to this. But I don't want to. Just as I expected, Russell said, examining the shattered golem core. There's only so much information you can get from a control core. Just like with Gon in general, it's another prototype, a Model 11. But the real question is, who's behind this? After the bandits were apprehended and handed over to the town guards, the group continued their journey. Several days later, they arrived in the capital city of Borgia in the Elias Kingdom. As they disembarked, they were greeted by a familiar face. Elsa. Jean. I'm so glad you made it safely. Reinhardt called out, rushing toward them. When I heard about the attack, I was worried, but it's a relief to see you unharmed. Elsa smiled warmly. Yes, we managed, thanks to Utberg-san and Reiko. However, Reinhardt's eyes glimmered with curiosity. There are several things that piqued my interest. Like Miss Reiko's sword and the golems. Before he could ask more, a tall figure interrupted. Reinhardt Dono, we can save the conversation for later, said Marquis Firenziano, his expression serious. The conversation shifted to the matter of the golems. Firenziano frowned. There's a possibility that Valentino is behind these attacks. Golem raids have been increasing across Elias, and now so close to Borgia. This is concerning. Russell nodded. I found a marking on the golem core. It's a prototype model. Firenziano's face hardened. A battle-type golem, no doubt. If they're using bandits to test them, their main purpose must be war. Despite the tension in the air, Jean refused the offer to serve under the Elias Kingdom, stating that he had no desire to work under anyone at the moment. Instead, he wanted to use his abilities to help those in need, free from political constraints. With that, the group prepared to leave the city, each with their own thoughts on power, responsibility, and the looming threat of war.